All right, we are live. Welcome, everybody. I'm Ian Velena, and yes, I'm back. I'm back after a while. Definitely have lots of updates. I've been traveling. Bill has been holding down the fort very strong, even in a rough market. Hello, Bill. How are you?
Ian, hi. Thanks for having me on the show. I'm doing great.
Great, great. Well, so much has happened. China possibly also warming up, the election cycle. We have so many things to cover, right? So I'm very, very excited to get into it. All right, so this is going out to our YouTube channel on Token Metrics. Make sure you subscribe, Token Metrics on YouTube, on Twitter, Telegram, everywhere. And one of the big updates we have is we're getting ready to do an exclusive limited launch of Token Metrics in the next month or two. So definitely make sure you subscribe to our website, tokenmetrics.com. Make sure you're on the email list. This is going to be an exclusive early preview to Token Metrics, the platform, what we've been building. I've been working a lot in the last few months with Bill, our team, on just really building a platform which we think could possibly be Wall Street 3.0, a term coined by Bill himself. And we think this is really the future. Crypto is evolving, it's changing. I myself have had to change because I felt the first wave of crypto, most people came from the tech world like myself, from IBM, from analytics, and got into investing. And we had crypto retirement, but we still had to learn the ropes. So that's why the last few months, as I've shared on my social media platforms, I've been working hard towards getting a Series 65 exam. Well, I can now say I passed the exam last month. It's a Series 65 investment advisor exam, meaning that now I can apply to the SEC to become a licensed registered investment advisor. And we also look to have the same thing done for Token Metrics. It's definitely not been easy, but I think it's something that has been very helpful, myself included, in terms of just learning how the traditional world invests and looks at things, and now taking that and applying it towards crypto, and also having experts like Bill himself, who has been in the Wall Street world, bringing that expertise to the crypto and to Token Metrics. So with that being said, let's get into the show. Bill, how are you?
Ian, I'm good. I'm a lot better that we're done with like the Bitcoin, sort of like Ginsu knife chop. That was not fun. I can tell you how I dealt with that, but I'm doing good and I'm ready to go.
All right. So first up, let's talk about the markets. Kind of give us your thoughts on the markets right now.
All right. I'm gonna share my screen if that's okay.
Yes, yeah.
All right. So here's what I'm thinking. Can I start with China?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So let's just sort of ponder this chart like artwork, sort of, as I talk about China. All right. China changed the whole game. Okay. The chart was okay. I liked it. Then the chart broke down and I kind of caved because I was like, oh my God. And then the Chinese did something. Now, I know at face value, it looks like they came out and they said something positive that they wanted to dominate blockchain. And you might be saying, well, how did that help crypto? Well, here's how. The Chinese and the Russians for 10 years have been buying all the gold and silver on the planet, literally, in an attempt to undermine the US dollar. Okay. And that hasn't worked. It hasn't. And they're getting pushed around by Trump. And whether they're winning or losing the trade war, it's just kind of embarrassing to get pushed around like that. Okay. Mm-hmm. So they came out, and what they've announced, like under the surface, is that they're now pro crypto as a way to sort of undermine what's going on with the dollar. Okay. So I think the Chinese have told you that if Bitcoin goes to 50,000, they're not going to stop it. They're not going to get upset. They're going to just let it fly. Okay. So from there, let's go to the chart, because in their mind, anything is better than the dollar. So they're going to want the digital renminbi. And if the digital renminbi and Bitcoin appreciate massively, well, then they'll be happy. So let's take a look at the Bitcoin chart. Okay. So there is wave one, and Ian talked about wave one, right? All the technology guys who bought Bitcoin at 50 because they knew what blockchain was, it went to 20,000 and they bought nicer cars, right? And if they
Great.
were right, and then hopefully they got out of most of it, but if they didn't, they had to watch it go to 3. And that's very typical of second waves, right? Where everyone gets out, everyone gets washed out, and complete despair kicks in. That's what you had at 3,000. Okay. And then what then occurs is you have a big, what they call an Elliott wave. You have, see, there's the 2 here. Okay. So you have the 2 wave, that's despair. And then it turns into the 3 wave, which is, moon Lambos in crypto terms. Although, I like moon and Lambos, but I don't like using the terms. They're,
Together.
I got to be cool, right?
Yeah.
So what happens in a 3 wave is when it starts, you get this initial burst, right? That was the move to 13,000 earlier this year. And then you get mini despair and boredom. Okay. You get boredom that turns into despair, which is what we had at 7,400. Okay. So if you look at this monthly chart, right, this gray area here, okay, an ex-colleague of mine would call this a bullish breaker, right? So it broke down from here in August, and then it came back above it, and it held right there. Okay. That was the monthly candlestick, okay, for October. So even though it was boring, even though it was choppy, even though there was like this hard bottom that I missed and a lot of other people did, it's okay. You know why? Because it retested a critical support. And it means that the third part of the third part can begin now in January or soon. So what does that mean? Well, the spice of life in the technical analysis world is catching the meat of the third part. It's called 3 of 3. That's just jargon. What that means is that should be a very impulsive period. Impulsive meaning Bitcoin goes up 2% every day and then has a 5% downdraft and then just starts going up 3-5% every day.
So basically massive FOMO in a way.
I would call it like FOMO light.
FOMO
light. Not Guinness, but FOMO, light beer, light beer. Right.
Okay.
And what that means is, the market will go up enough to get people excited, but it'll go up and people will like, well, gee, I don't know if I want to chase it. And then it'll go up a little more and people will go, oh, gee, I don't know if I can chase it.
Slowly, gradually going up.
Right. Gradually going up every day until, you're right, FOMO eventually kicks in, but the first wave is not FOMO necessarily. All right. So, I should probably, that's probably an awkward transition to the rest of it because, you can start talking about upside targets. We use Fibonacci extension analysis. So Fibonacci, if has 2 ways of looking at markets. A market will go up and then retrace, or a market can go up and then extend. And the Fibonacci mathematics help you come up with like levels. Okay. So we came up with 29K. In other words, if there really is a FOMO move, it's going to go past 20K. It is. And then we think there might be a retracement to 24K. And then who knows from there, right? A lot of people talk about 50,000. You know what? I can actually draw 50,000 on a chart.
Wow. Okay. So
I could draw it, right?
Yeah.
So, I can definitely draw a 29K because of this with the bullish breaker and the Chinese, right? So, there is absolutely no reason why Bitcoin cannot go to 20,000. I think the only reason, just for the sake of being balanced, okay, not waffling, not hedging, just for the sake of being balanced, The only thing that's going to stop this is if a Western government comes out and says crypto's illegal. Now, here's what's funny. The country that I was worried about that happening in, France, was on Zero Hedge today that they just launched a program to start teaching crypto to kids in school. So the country I was worried about banning it is now teaching it in school. So that's one less worry for crypto. All right. So, that's how I'd look at Bitcoin. If I could just jump to Ethereum on the monthly chart. Okay. I've got more Fibonacci mathematics here. These lines are drawn using Fibonacci math. So I select this line here, and these other lines are automatically drawn. Okay. What's interesting is right here, we had the bottom in Ethereum. Okay. That was 2017. These lines line up with the top here in 2017 at 1500 and with a despair point in January. And the next kind of signal period may be in January. So, Ethereum has been boring us to death at 180 for a while, and who knows, that could continue. But I would expect in January for Ethereum to wake up based on this monthly chart because it fits the Bitcoin analysis.
Wow. Okay. I mean, so things are definitely turning more positive.
They're turning more positive, and in my mind, they're getting more clear from a chart point of view. It's easier. It feels easier to read the chart now, right? Like, again, with Bitcoin, this point holding is a great reference point, right? Like, for some reason, if it goes down below 8K again and attacks that level, it's got to hold as support, right? That's easy. Right? If support holds, it's going up. What could probably happen here is we could sit around at 9K and we could do in Bitcoin at 9K what we've done at Ethereum in 180, which is bore everyone to tears before 3 of 3 kicks in. And in the meantime, that, I don't want to get ahead of the show, but that sort of segues into another crypto theme I've got about alts. But, we can talk about that. I'll let,
so
you're the show host.
If anybody has any questions, feel free to just ask the questions in the comments and our team will take care of it. We're taking questions from YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, wherever you're watching this, preferably on the Token Metrics channel. It is still also going to my personal channel as well. Okay, so here we have some comments. Hey, Barry in the house. Hey, BHP, Dan, what's up? Ramsey King, he's saying, why do you think this? If you could add more details to your questions, that would be more helpful. I think it's talking about in terms of prior statement. Now, one question I do have is China has been trying for a while to dethrone the US dollar as the reserve currency. Correct. Now, if they issue a digital currency and they think this is, because their timing was almost perfect, right? They saw what the US was doing with Facebook Libra and the regulation and the compliance and all the hoops they're making Libra jump through. Then they came out that same week and announced they're launching their own digital cryptocurrency. Correct. Almost as a way to kind of spite the US. And somebody was speaking to me earlier, and they mentioned that they believe that China is the America of the 21st century, and that America is the UK or Britain of the 19th century. Oh, no, of the 1900s, right? So what's your take on that? Do you think that America or the American dollar can kind of not crash, but not be the reserve currency, kind of like how the pound and the UK was the reserve and the biggest country or the most powerful country in the world until World War II, where they basically were so much in debt, they had to kind of rebuild?
Okay, well, I think this encompasses a lot. Okay, so first of all, you're right. The Chinese definitely seized on an opportunity where, Trump is off balance. The US government is freaking out that one of their own citizens, Zuckerberg, wants to come out and challenge the dollar himself, a tech company. So China just says, wow, okay, well, we'll push back against you and we'll have a digital renminbi for two reasons. One, because we can thumb our nose at the US because we're cooler than you, right? And people in the US might want the digital renminbi, right? Like, no reason why you can't go get that at a crypto exchange if it's on one. All right. So the Chinese can thumb their nose at America. And to be honest with you, the Chinese also love it because it'll be on a blockchain. So they're communists and they want to control everything. They want to surveil everything. They have facial recognition over there that they actually have to dial it back. They have what's called a social credit score to see whether or not you're going to be a good human being. You know, they have 800,000 Muslims in a detention facility, a detention city.
I've heard about that. Yeah.
Right.
Human rights.
So, you know, I know that crypto Twitter can be kind of funny and make the Chinese president into a hero. You can think what you want, but you know, they love blockchain and they love the digital renminbi so they can track everything. You know, as far as our decline goes, you know, we've all printed too much money. Europe has printed too much money. China has printed too much money. The problem in the world isn't the United States, it's fiat. It's paper money, right? I remember a tweet from Fiat, the auto company, goes, why do you guys hate us? The problem is in the United States, it's paper money.
Paper money.
Okay. So yeah, paper money is going out of style like, you know, the clothes that, you know, English royalty used to wear, right? It's that part's done.
Well, I think somebody could say that it's not really paper money, but more just having the freedom to print money, right? Because if paper money was finite, then I think we would be okay, right?
Right. And when I say paper money or fiat, you're right. Anything that comes out of a printing press, whether it's a digital or actual one, or I really should clarify that, you know, anything that can be controlled by a central bank. Like the Chinese like digital renminbi because it gives them control. But once everyone realized that the Chinese were adding crypto to their arsenal of things that could undermine the dollar, that's when everything took off. You know, if I could just interject a chart, right? Yes. So, you know, with Monero, okay, you know, a lot of people are down on privacy coins for all kinds of reasons, right? You know,
they've been delisted on exchanges.
Right. Delisted on exchanges, privacy can be added to other coins if they want it, etc. Well, I'm seeing a breakout this week in Monero above 60, you know, above a line that is capped Monero going back to May. Okay. So something's going on in Monero and privacy matters. All right. And my guess is the Chinese government wants to see what you're doing on a blockchain, and the American left, they believe their money is their money and they believe your money is their money. Okay. So Monero is reacting to this and it's not a surprise. So to answer the question, you know, yes, the US dollar has got problems because we've printed too much money and we have an absurd amount of debt in both the public and the private sector. However, that's also the case in Europe and Japan.
Right.
The question is, what do the people want? Like the people of China may love the digital renminbi. I mean, they kind of have digital currency anyway. They just use money through WeChat, you know, 10 cents payment systems.
All right. Let's take one question here from Ellipsis. He says he's French, and he's saying the French Minister of Economy is in favor of blockchain and partially cryptos, but that's it. He's saying they don't even teach basic economy in our country. Okay. Well, maybe we misspoke, but thank you for that information, Ellipsis. Then we have a question from Kamran Hussein. He's saying, what is the worst case scenario? Good question. Good question.
Okay. Yeah, that's a great question. I like questions like this because I can talk about, you know, in traditional research, you're supposed to talk about your view and your risks to your view. Okay. Some people call that hedging. I call it balance. So here's the worst case scenario. The worst case scenario is that somebody like Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders get elected in the United States, and they come out and say that they're going to institute a wealth tax. That means they're going to call your bank. They're not going to call you. They're going to call the IRS. They're going to call your bank and say, send us 10% of everybody's accounts. Everybody. Wow. Just like a tax levy from the IRS.
Anybody over a particular income, right?
Yeah. Or everybody, right? I mean, if you have $100 in the bank, you lose $10. If you have $1 billion in the bank, it's a bigger sum. So they could just say, you know, everybody's going to chip in 10%. Okay. And if people are afraid that that's coming, you know, everybody's got to get 10% of their money into a hard crypto wallet really quick. I'm sorry, a cold crypto wallet or even an exchange. Cause, you know, I don't think the government has the capacity to say, you know, send us 10% of everybody's Bitcoin. They don't, that's not how, they don't have that capability yet. So crypto could go ballistic. And in the worst case scenario is they could come out and basically just say, you know, we're shutting it down. No more Coinbase, no more Bitcoin, done. You know, and everybody who likes it's, you know, it's like some people, I make a joke that they don't build the wall near Mexico. That's not built to keep people out. That's built to keep us in. Okay. So that's the worst case scenario, is that they make it illegal.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully that doesn't happen. I mean, I don't think that's going to happen just based on the advancements I've seen in regulation and compliance in the US. I mean, from traveling the world, the US is definitely behind, right? They're behind the game, but they are taking strides. But I, myself included, I mean, I don't really swing it to a particular party. I'm an independent, but the high taxes, all the policies I'm seeing for taxes does scare me. Right. I mean, I'm all for improving society and all that stuff. But I mean, when politicians talk about issuing a 70% tax to the wealthy, I mean, that in a way almost disincentivizes people from pursuing the American dream almost.
Right. Actually, there's no almost about it. That is what they could do. And they could not only do it, but they may have to do it. So, you know, that's the worst case scenario. But, you know, here at Token Metrics, you know, we want to give you a balanced view, and there is a lot to be positive, especially in this case where, you know, I don't think these people, you know, they can try to make crypto illegal, but they could read the blockchain for themselves. A firm called Chainalysis in New York, you know, they help the government read the blockchain all day long. You know, that's how they catch criminals, because it's all there on the blockchain. That's why it's good. So, you know, I don't know that that necessarily is going to happen, but that is the risk to crypto.
Yeah, very well said. Hey, what's up, Brandon? Thanks for joining the chat. Then we have a question from Chris Patent Walker. I think we already answered this. What is the rationale behind the move up on BTC? I think we may have answered this, but maybe for those who are just joining, just kind of give them.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, the Chinese have come out and said, we're okay with crypto being a part of our arsenal that we use to undermine the dollar, period. Right. So if the Chinese are into it, then that changes people's mindset in crypto. Like, we went from, personally, I went from, oh my God, it's a repeat of last year. It broke 8,000 and now it's going to crack, to, hey, support held and it can go higher, right? Like right there on that blue line, the gray area with the blue arrow. Right.
Yes. Yeah. All right. Next question from I am Rafi said on Twitter. I probably butchered that. I apologize. He's saying, does the Elliott wave fit, or is it one more, or is it a false positive? Okay.
Okay, well, that's a perfectly reasonable question. You know, Elliott wave is super subjective.
Subjective. Yeah.
Subjective, right? So I took a look at this and I was just like, I drew it because remember when I said that, you know, big trends have 5 parts. The big gratification is in the 1 wave, the 3 wave, and the 5 wave. And the 2 wave and the 4 wave are kind of consolidation and boredom, right? Sometimes even despair. That's what gets everybody out and allows the big trends to happen. So clearly in 2018, that was despair that got everyone out. And now in 2019, we had boredom, right? And chop and frustration. So, you know, when you have 2 washouts like this, that is normally a precursor to bigger moves like these, right? The more despair, the more chop. You know, ask Ian. Ian went on a couple trips, went
Yeah.
to a couple conventions. What's the first thing he said? People are still down in the mouth on crypto. No one's excited. No one's excited. You know, no one's talking about, forget moons and Lambos. Nobody even thinks it can go up. And
Yeah.
as soon as he said that, I was like, oh, perfect. I drew this.
So to add to that, so I went to Ethereum DevCon in Osaka, Japan, and sentiment there were people were building, developers were building, but all the investors were on the sidelines. All the investors, like the crypto token funds, they weren't so bullish on tokens. Very few were doing equity. Most of them were just totally changing their business model. They were doing OTC or arbitrage trading. And these were crypto funds that were traditionally investing in private sales and so forth, right? But the entire ICO market was basically fizzled out and they had to adapt and change models, right? And I met some investors who said they don't think they can even call themselves crypto investors anymore because they haven't invested in crypto at all this whole year. They've just been on the sidelines. And then I recently came back from World CryptoCon in Vegas. That was a pretty good conference, but same thing, sentiment is boredom, right? As Bill said, lots of people were bored. They're kind of waiting for something to happen, right? And I think the Chinese news could be the spark and catalyst to something big happening.
Right. And then, of course, there's also like the US election, US stock markets, all kinds of things like that. You know, they impeached the president that made the stock market go up. I'm not, you know, you can like him, you can not like him. You know.
All right. So somebody from our audience is asking, can we take a look at XRP, Ripple?
Yes, certainly.
And while you're doing that, Eric Baptiste is saying he just Googled and the news is true. The French are introducing an educational module to high school students. Yeah, I mean, so I haven't seen the news, but I mean, if that's the case, I think anything is good for crypto. So I'm pro anything crypto.
Right. You know, that was from a big blog, Zero Hedge. So I definitely
yeah, it's pretty trustworthy.
Okay, so you know, I know this is sort of a kind of a semi-favorite part of the show where people like to just see me draw on stuff on the fly that I'm not necessarily paying attention to.
Mm-hmm. All right, no worries.
All right, so here's what I would tell you about Ripple, right? So this would be the bearish breaker here around 32 cents. And Ripple has got to demonstrate every time Ripple runs up here, it stops and comes off, right? Here and here. And we've talked about this on the show before. That's probably Ripple Inc. just selling it to fund their operations.
Yeah. Right? Yes, yeah.
You know, they let it go up to 32 cents and that's where they or whoever owns it is selling. So, you know, you see a 2-day close above 32 cents, you can go with that. Otherwise, you know, the sellers are in control, right? I know Ripple's this like hotly debated topic. I try to stay away from that. Just
Yeah, I mean, because
the bears are in control here.
yeah, they're known for having what they call programmatic liquidation, where they sell tokens. I believe they sell 1% of the volume of the trading volume each day on exchanges to fund their operations. And there was a report this year that they had sold, I believe, over $200 million already this year. Don't quote me on the exact amount, but it was a very large number. So yeah, I think what you're saying does make sense.
Yeah, I mean it's all over the chart.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Next question. Crypto ENG. Can we see your bearish bias? I mean, I still want to see Bitcoin covering region 6K or even 5K.
Okay.
All right.
All right. So basically what I think this person is asking is, what's the downside?
Yeah.
Or is that possible? All right. So this is BitMEX today, right? So what crypto likes to do, and I'm just in love with this indicator from TradingView. It's called Fibonacci speed retracement lines. Let me see if I can just call it up right here. Speed resistance fan. Okay. And I'm having a lot of success drawing these lines and then just watching how crypto behaves, right? So interestingly, there's your spike to 10,500. Okay. And what crypto seems to do sometimes is, it likes to go up here to this top line, and then it likes to come back down and visit the bottom line or the bottom close to the bottom, right? So that's your 6K. That's your 6,500 that people talk about. I think if I look at the Bitcoin futures chart, there's a gap right here. There's a big one, actually.
Oh, wow.
There's this huge gap, okay, in that like 6,500 area. So it's logical for people to say, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, Novogratz, I think, I don't know if it was quoted correctly, but I saw Novogratz and I was kind of in agreement that, when this thing started to break down below 8K, I was like, this could go fill the gap at 6,000. Now, could that still happen? Sure. But I mean, what's the catalyst to sell it after what the Chinese said?
Yeah,
right. I mean, it's like, the biggest country on the planet is into anything, is now into alternative currencies. So, I'm not going to fight that. And if the market can't go up, if the market can't rally, because again, notice how we're right here at, we're at this inflection point. Remember how I told you the market likes these lines that I draw, these fib lines? We're sitting right on top of one in Bitcoin futures, right there at 9,200. It's right there. So, I think it holds. I think we're going to sit here at 9K and then we're going to turn around and go up, at the end of December.
Right. All right. Great. So next question from Twitter, Moonshot Caller. He's saying, what's our opinion on Chinese cryptocurrencies like VeChain, Neo? Do we think they'll be favored above others after the bullish news from China?
Okay. Great question.
Great question.
All right. So let's, okay. Again, everybody gets to watch me do a little bit of artwork here. Okay. So
yeah, the Chinese currencies recently.
If you've read any of our work, right, on TradingView, we're really into this whole idea of things retracing to the point where they broke down, the last big puke happened. So here's what the deal is with Neo, right? So this is the last big puke right here, basically. And I've noticed something important, that when Neo rallied, it took out this top line, which Elliott Wave guys call the previous fourth. That just means, you know, the launch point for the final lower. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And NEO is also holding support at this gray rectangle here. So the NEO went up and is now perched and building a base. So what was resistance is now support. Now, I know that this project may be fundamentally debatable, but the fact it took out the previous fourth, the fact that support's holding means that this can go higher, right? I mean, if I didn't know what it was, if you just handed me this, I'd be like, yeah, this can go up.
So purely TA there's lots of upside.
Yeah, there's upside in NEO and there's upside in higher quality alt universe.
All right. So speaking of that, let's kind of talk about alts, right? So alts are warming up. Any thoughts and comments based on China and the market and how things have shifted drastically?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of really interesting things going on in alts, and here's why. Bitcoin being boring, or Bitcoin having to sit at 9K the way Ethereum sat at 180, gives alts a chance to move up versus Bitcoin, right? Like the hot money's got to go somewhere type of thinking. Not to mention the Chinese did mention investment in blockchain, right? So all of these projects that were deemed, you know what coins and we're going to zero, all of a sudden there may be some coins in there that survive and some investors who come in and say, hey, I'm buying this stuff. You know, the fast money is just going to chase the higher quality stuff that starts rallying. So for example, you know, what better way to track the alt universe than Binance coin, right? So just like with Bitcoin back in June of 2018, you had this sort of breaker point, right? That was the big dig down, then it broke out and then it came back, and 2 months in a row, okay, Binance coin held 15. I think we talked about 15 in Binance coin in one of our original shows. So as far as I'm concerned, Binance coin can just turn right around and go back to 40, because you got two huge candlesticks, 2 huge months where they tried to press 15 and the bears couldn't do it. Okay. So, you know, and if you start to look at things like ZRX, again, you got to watch me do a little bit of drawing when it comes to these alt charts. So bear with me. Okay. So when you're looking at ZRX, okay, you had a support zone here, hold near 25 cents. Okay. So you see how it came up, it stopped there. And then when it broke out, it came back down. Okay. This is a sign that ZRX may be in an uptrend. This isn't just some corrective move like over here. Okay. This is different because it has a wave structure to it. Okay. So what's the bottom line? Well, ZRX could go to 40. It's Coinbase listed, and if people pour into Coinbase and this project is decent, it can go to 40 cents. Period. Right?
Right.
Cosmos, same thing. Right? Okay. So if we look at Cosmos on a 2-day chart, all right, we get a similar read, right? So originally, when you heard me talk about alts, you were like, when alts retrace 23%, they get to a 23% retracement of their decline, don't touch it. It's over. The rally's done. Well, guess what? Cosmos here, okay, has been sitting on top of its 23% retracement level. It's been perched there for over a month. And its previous fourth is all the way up here. So if Cosmos is a great project, right? It's got technical upside, and it's set up where if it continues to go higher, it could continue to go higher. So Cosmos has FOMO breakout potential, not right this second. It's just kind of bullish, but I can see people FOMOing into some of these higher quality alts.
Yeah, I mean, so our team has looked into the fundamentals and the tech of Cosmos Atom, and we're definitely very bullish. So I think if the TA matches up with that, I can definitely see this going on a tear.
Okay,
All
I
right.
was just looking to see if I had, I have altcoin market cap here. Okay, this is from coinsignal.trade. Okay, so again, let me just draw it this way. Alts are not backing off, right? So alt market cap went up, and then alts have managed to go sideways. Okay, now there's resistance here. Okay, but alts are not backing off, right? What do alts normally do? They rally, everyone FOMOs, and then boom, they go back down.
Mm-hmm.
Now alts are going sideways, which means somewhere out there, there are higher quality projects. Let me see if anybody minds if I just experiment and draw a trend line and look at that. Okay. So, one of the things is when you see something going sideways, it may be because it just broke out and it's consolidating. So if you draw that trend line on alt market cap from coin signal, okay, alts have broken a downtrend line. Okay, which means, that it doesn't mean borrow money from your parents to invest in shit coins. It means,
Definitely.
that there's stuff out there that's worth buying that could really rip. Okay, if Bitcoin sits still, which could happen between, it's the holidays, right? I mean, and not a lot of people, like it's kind of like the Americans miss out, right? It's like, okay, yeah, we have this huge positive crypto announcement and everyone's waiting for Bitcoin and Ethereum go up, and the small stuff is what actually kicks off the rally.
Right. Okay. Question here from Vincero. He's asking me, do you think that a drop of Tether, looking at the fact that the New York Attorney General is on them, will affect BTC and other cryptocurrencies as a whole, looking at the fact that it holds 70% of the volume? I think it's tough to say, but Tether has had so much FUD, and it's been through almost everything. And I feel now that the stablecoin market is getting more competitive, and there are lots of other viable options. So I don't think it's going to be the end of crypto or hard crypto drastically, at least midterm to long term. If Tether were to fall, I feel like some other cryptocurrency would just step up, whether it's Paxos, whatever other stablecoin is there, right? Nowadays, almost everybody has a stablecoin. Okay. Hey, PB, thanks for the message. I'm doing well. Thank you. Okay, let's see what other questions we have here. Hi from Sweden. What do we think of Chainlink? Okay, you want to take a look at Chainlink, Bill? While you're pulling that up, from a fundamental perspective, I can actually try to pull it up here on Token Metrics. So we've been working hard on rating tokens on tokenmetrics.com because we're getting ready for our launch. And we plan to launch with almost 100 different cryptocurrencies. And Chainlink will be one of those that we'll have on there. Okay. From a tech perspective, our developer, Paresh, former IT director at Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan Blockchain, he's been doing a great job looking at projects from a tech perspective and the actual code. He said Chainlink is all right. It's not the best project out there. It's okay. And fundamentals, it's also okay. It's definitely better than the average cryptocurrencies out there. But we do think it did have massive hype and FOMO and over marketing, especially from the trolls on 4chan. So we think it may not be as good as advertised, but that does not mean it's not a good project per se. And feel free to chime in with the TA, Bill, when you're ready.
Okay. All right. So So this is the 2-day chart. Okay. So there's this huge block of resistance. All right. And do you see what happens every time Chainlink tries to take it out? Right. It stops. Right. And now it's kind of slumping towards the bottom of this zone. So, and if you look at a weekly, you know, people in crypto like looking at candlesticks, and they like looking for what they call wicks, right? And these things are created because Chainlink rushes up and then comes back down. That happened in June. It happened in October, and it's, you know, beginning in middle of October. So somebody out there is selling Chainlink every time it goes up. It's like Ripple. It's like Ripple.
I know who. So in the press, I think a few months ago, developers from Chainlink cashed out a huge amount of tokens. I think somebody said from the smart contract that the development team, when it went all the way up, they cashed out a bunch of money. I mean, there were probably buying Lambos and other nice fun stuff, but they definitely cashed out. Not
Sure.
that that's a bad thing per se, because I mean they've definitely been working hard on the project, right? But I know from reports that the team did sell some tokens.
Right. And when you see something like this, you know, when you see these like 3 big red candles, you know, that's kind of like an absence of buying, right? When bears can just take over. That's people getting out, right?
That seems inorganic to you. You think so?
Well, it's not inorganic. It's just sort of like an unusual imbalance where all of a sudden like a big seller comes in and the bulls just can't hold it up, right? In other words, like this is little investors trying to buy, and then this is bigger people probably selling, right? Because there's no uptick. There's no, like, the bulls can't come in and take control again. Every rally is getting sold.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, this is why, you know, I don't want to say like the crypto casino is open. It's not. You know, higher quality alts where maybe all the sellers or all the big players have been washed out already or have sold are the ones where you want to buy.
And to kind of use that to answer a question from Moonshot Caller, he's saying, do we believe many cryptocurrencies will die and few will thrive? Yeah, I mean, I think that's what happens in normal markets, from crypto to equities. I mean, even looking at the dot-com bubble when it popped, I mean, only a few companies survived that. The Google, the Amazons, the Ciscos. And I think even with the last crypto bull run, prior to the Bitcoin fork that made Bitcoin Cash, prior to the whole Bitcoin debate and debacle, there were some cryptocurrencies that were in the top 20 or top 30 in market cap, and now are out of the top 100. If you look at the crypto market, the top 20 for cryptocurrencies based on market cap every single year is constantly musical chairs. Very few times do you have the same cryptocurrencies staying in the top 20. So I don't think that's going to stop anytime soon. I think because it's crypto, there are always new currencies coming out. So like this year we have Atom and even Chainlink, which broke into the top 20, and I think you'll have even more, right? I think if Facebook Libra and Telegram Taunt end up launching, I think those are going to be top 20 market cap projects. So whoever is in the top 20 will get pushed out for those, because the market is getting more competitive and more mature. All right, let's see here. Thoughts on Blockstack? Yeah, I think what Blockstack has done has been great. They're the first SEC qualified cryptocurrency, and they're trading on Binance, which is something we actually talked about and almost predicted a few months ago, because we saw their statement that they published and filed with the SEC that they were speaking to non-US exchanges. And I think they've really paved the way forward and shown how US-based blockchain startups can issue security tokens. Because what they did is they're basically a utility token. but they registered and applied with SEC and filed as a security token in the US. That's because it was what was the law. But outside the US, they're still being treated as a utility token because their token does not give holders any equity in the company, right? So it's not your typical security token. But it seems the SEC will turn a blind eye as long as the exchange it's listed on does not have US users, right? So Binance kicked off US users and pushed them onto Binance US. So now Binance.com, everybody there is not American, right? So based on the SEC filing, the SEC was okay with that because Binance.com does not cater to US investors. So that for now is a way to give liquidity to US based projects who are issuing tokens abroad, but it does not bode so well for US people here, right? Because if you're holding Blockstack, you still can't buy or sell, right? You kind of on a leash, right? You can't really do much. But I think it's still going to, I'm very positive still when it comes to security tokens because Coinbase and lots of other cryptocurrency exchanges are taking strides towards eventually listing security tokens. Because I know Coinbase has raised a bunch of money and they're working with the US regulation and compliance laws trying to eventually list security tokens. So I think when that happens, it's still far away. It could be a few years, maybe even longer. But when it does happen, I think the space is really going to heat up. Any thoughts on that, Bill?
All it takes is one big STO.
Yeah,
just one.
One big STO.
And the thing about STOs is I actually learned this from getting a demo of Polymath. You know, you can theoretically do an STO for 1/10 of what it costs to do an IPO in equities. And you can drop those tokens. I mean, obviously the investors want to be able to trade it, but you know, you can drop those tokens into a wallet, right into the investor's wallet, maintain control, like restricted stock, and do all the things you can do with equities. And all it takes is one big STO.
Yeah.
Right. T0, those guys, they've got an office in New York. I see them on Instagram all the time. Mm-hmm. So, you know, that's overstock.
Now, T0s, I personally don't think, this is just my opinion, I don't think they're going to be the ones that will take us to STO heaven, let's say, because they've had their chance, they've had their issues, and the CEO stepped down. Apparently he was dating a Russian spy or something. And I mean, there's just so much drama happening that I think somebody else will take us to STO heaven, right? Even though T0 has raised a bunch of money, they haven't really hit all the goals that they were hoping for. And I know people who are early investors, equity investors in T0s, and they're looking to exit. They're asking me to connect them with people to buy their equity shares. So that's just I guess having that kind of information makes me not so bullish on them short term. I'm rather more bullish on somebody else like Coinbase or Binance really doing that for STOs. But that brings up a good question for our audience. Are you bullish or bearish on security tokens and STOs? Let us know in the comments down below. If you're bullish, just say I'm bullish. If you're bearish, just say I'm bearish. Just want to kind of have a understanding of what the community thinks. Brandon Moody is saying securitize. Hey, what's up, guys? Brandon, Costa, 100X in the house. King Nick, lots of crypto family is watching this. Thank you guys for all the support. If you guys like the video, be sure to thumbs up, share, and subscribe. And if you guys like all this analysis, be sure to sign up at tokenmetrics.com. We have lots of amazing things we're working on. We're also planning to create premium content for our community and also launch a private group for our community alongside Token Metrics when it launches. So be sure you're subscribed, because this is going to be a staggered launch. We won't just launch it to everybody. We're thinking maybe initially to 1,000 people and then kind of keep on scaling it up. So we want to keep it exclusive and limited as we're building, right? So think of it as almost like a early access or pre-order. So we'll have a lot more to people via our email. So we already have 13,000 people on the email list. So we definitely cannot have everybody on, assuming everybody signs up for Token Metrics, because we want to have a staggered approach, but be sure you're signed up so you have early access. All right. Brandon is saying he's dad modding with the fam this Sunday. Okay. All right. We're almost at the top of the hour. Any last words, Bill? Anything you want to say to wrap up the show?
Well, always thanks for having me on. And for the viewers out there, thanks for tuning in. We definitely appreciate you reading our work and hearing what we have to say. And I think it's going to be a Christmas where people involved in crypto can just be sane. Even if it's a range, you can be sane. That's my saying from now until the end of the year. We
always like your sayings.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, Bill. It's been a pleasure. And thank you, everybody. Once again, follow us at tokenmetrics.com. And until next time, we'll see you later.
Take care. Thank you.